Congratulations. Yes, you finally made it. You got an offer accepted, or you just accepted an offer on your next dream property, your dream home. Congratulations. This is a massive win. I'm so excited for you. Now, my name is Brendan Silva. I'm the founder and owner of the De Silva team. We're a local real estate sales team here in the greater Newark area, and we have the privilege to be a part of Keller Williams New Jersey Metro Group. With that said, it's not about us, it's about you, and we want to make sure you're prepared for the story that is ahead. There's a few characters that you should know. Now, the characters to any story that you're in, it's called the home buying or home selling process, are as follows. You have lenders, attorneys. In New Jersey, very common to have two attorneys, one for the buyer, one for the seller. You have the seller, the buyer, and both realtors. Now, on top of that, you may even get a home inspector and a transaction coordinator. If you're working with us, thankfully, we'll provide a transaction coordinator that will be available for all the questions that may come along. We'll be honest with you. You selling or buying your house is a part-time job. Congratulations. You just hired yourself. And part of the story is really exciting because it's the beginning of something new. Now, in order for this story to be a good one, I want to make sure you're prepared as possible. So please follow along as we take it step by step, how exactly you should look at buying your next property or selling your next property. Once your offer is accepted in New Jersey, we're going to go into what's called attorney review. That is the norm. Now, that is a time that usually lasts several days. Now, both attorneys, your attorney and the other side's attorney, are going to make changes to the contract, changes that you'll need to agree to and the other party, whether it's the buyer or the seller, they'll need to agree to. This usually lasts several days. We never want it to exceed 5 calendar days. New Jersey so strongly recommends that we do work with an attorney while serving you in your transaction that we actually will give you options. You should have received several options already, and they even included in our paperwork for you to work with an attorney for your benefit. Attorney review really is a conversation to iron out specific details about your transaction, such as deposits and closing dates and inspection, contingencies and appraisal contingencies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is a great way to set clear expectations and to avoid frustrations. Now, you should be warned during attorney review, either party can cancel. You can cancel on your other party, or the other party can cancel on you for any reason, just because they changed their mind. So make sure if you're serious about this opportunity that you get under contract as soon as possible. Once both buyer and seller sign off on the attorney review riders, then you are officially under contract. Congrats. Now, hopefully you've already made your deposit. If you're the buyer, you should have already, God willing, made your deposit, or at least had the earnest money deposit ready and available for the seller. Now, it's not uncommon that a deposit will only be due up to 10 days after your attorney review is concluded. Nonetheless, a deposit, whether it's for $1,000, $10,000, or $50,000, is to be held by either the attorneys or the title company. We as realtors don't hold your deposit. So please make sure you're speaking with your realtor and your attorney to ensure that your deposit is done in a timely manner. Make sure that you don't delay on your deposit. This is going to ensure a smoother transaction and less stress for you as the homeowner or home buyer. So now you've gotten your offer accepted, you're through attorney review, you've made your deposit or you're about to. What do I do next? Who do I talk to? You're going to need immediately to talk to your lender. Now, here are some do's and don'ts. You want to make sure you do be upfront with your lender about any and all, child payments, support, back taxes, anything you owe, income, whether you get paid cash or on the books, what you declare versus what you actually make. You want to make sure you're 100% upfront and honest with your lender and your realtor. Make sure you're taking proactive steps to get your lender all the documents they require. This is going to be in the form of bank statements. This is going to be in the form of W-2s, tax returns, etc. This is a no-brainer if you want a streamlined purchase. Now, what you don't want to do, you don't want to go out and buy a new car, incur any additional debt that has not been disclosed to your lender. You also do not want to have any large withdrawals or deposits made in your account, let's say in excess of $5,000. You got to be on your best behavior unless you want the bank to give you a hard time. If sellers, you also want to speak to the banker. If you have a home equity line of credit, you want to terminate that right away and start getting yourself in a position where you're going to be prepared to sell that home. Maybe request from the bank a payoff dated similar to your closing dates with 2 weeks added for contingency. You want to make sure you're prepared to sell, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller. You want to make sure that your bank is aware that you are going to need the payoff. Okay, or you're gonna need to close out that home equity line of credit. So while the buyer is working on the loan and getting the appraiser in order and getting the appraiser ordered, right, for your purchase, Mr. Seller and Mrs. Seller, what are you guys doing? I'm glad you asked. This is quite possibly the most underrated challenge when it comes to buying or selling a property, and it's your responsibility as the seller. It's the CO, Certificate of Occupancy. And also the fire certificate, which comes from a fire inspection, meaning your house is up to code. Now, a lot of people, they're not even aware of how each town changes. One town can ask for handrails or they won't give it to you. The other town, they don't give a darn about handrails. So it's highly important that you go to your building department and order the CO as soon as you humanly possibly can. Do not hesitate. Do not stop at go to collect 200, go right into that building department. Okay, it's going to streamline the process. You're going to need perhaps the buyer license, which we can make available upon request, and the buyer's contact information, once again, made available upon request. But the key thing here is being proactive. It's your responsibility as seller. Please go out and get that CO and fire certificate ordered. Not only ordered, but scheduled. Not only scheduled, but make sure you pass. If your house isn't up to code, there is something that many buyers are doing nowadays, which is closing with a temporary or a conditional certificate of occupancy. This is very popular, very common, as a lot of sellers don't want the inconvenience or the financial burden of repairing the home and would rather slightly lower the price so that the buyer can take on that liability and that headache to make sure the house ends up being up to code within 30, 60, 90 days, depending on the town of closing. So the CO and the fire certificate will be your step, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, as soon as you get under contract. That's what I want you working on. Okay, it's going to make everything a lot smoother. It's important, just to give you guys great advice, whether it's a CO, appraisal, or whatever it is along the way, you want to make sure that you're breathing, right? That you're reminding yourself, why are you doing this? You're doing this to better your family, perhaps, better yourself as an individual, to build generational wealth, to cash out in a hot market, to move out of town and be closer to relatives and loved ones. Whatever the reason is, I want you to write that down somewhere you can see it and remind yourself all throughout this process that you are doing this for a reason, that this wasn't a short-sighted decision, but that you have thought this out, that you've committed yourself after our team has helped you really navigate the process of finding a buyer or buying a property. So remember, why are you doing this in the first place? And with that, stay positive. You're learning. This is exciting. And it's something to be treasured and celebrated, not just endured, right? This is a good experience. This is a beautiful experience. And this is really a monumental experience in your life that we're grateful to be a part of. So after the buyer has started the appraisal, all throughout that, another factor comes into play: inspection. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, this is your time to shine. This is an opportunity to open up the body and ask all the questions of how does this beat and how does that work, to look behind the scenes on how the sausage is made. So please ask a lot of questions during that home inspection. The home inspection cannot be done by your cousin John, who's a contractor. No, it needs to be done by a licensed third party, right? Home inspector in the state of New Jersey. A home inspection is your opportunity to learn heavily about your home, to be able to foresee what issues will come. And even if you're buying a brand new house, for example, I sold a 3,500 or 3,200 square foot, beautiful new construction in Middlesex County. And I was blown away because when we did inspection, there were probably 24 items the inspector found. I said, wait, isn't this new construction? He said, I've never gone through a house and seen a perfect one. So if I'm you, what does that mean? You must make sure that you're asking questions, preparing, and understand that issues will arise. The buyer will do a home inspection. And although they told you it was as is, and although they promised they're not going to ask for anything, do not pull the nuke if they do ask for something. It's very common that buyers will ask for something. Don't panic if they ask for something, okay? That's part of the process. If a buyer or seller asks for an item during the inspection period, there's 3 options. Both parties can immediately agree. Second is they can negotiate and meet somewhere in the middle. The third is they can part ways and cancel. And that's totally fine too. Maybe the house isn't for you. And maybe this buyer just won't cut it. Now the utilities must be changed. We're talking gas, electric, Wi-Fi, internet. We're talking trash, sewage, whatever it may be. Schools, you want to start calling and getting that really in order. You want to let them know, hey, I'm closing out my property on the 1st of the month. Please cancel my water bill moving there forward. Hey, can I get my final water reading, my water meter reading, right? How much do I owe you guys? I want to close out that tab. Now, after you got the CO, the inspection and the appraisal, and you have that mortgage commitment, which the lender produces, you should really start, honestly, get ready to move, because within the next few days or weeks, you're going to end up moving. Quite frankly, won't be too long thereafter. So you want to make sure you have your stuff in order. Before the closing, perhaps 2-3 days before, the seller will go to the attorney's office or the title company's office, or have the documents sent to them and really review and then sign off. And that's actually their closing in a way, right? That's their portion of the documents. Then when the buyer goes to the closing table, and this is really important, when you go to the closing table, you're going to have closing costs, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. I want you to really figure in your head anywhere between 3 to 5% of the purchase price for closing. Now, I know that's a big range. And now, Brendan, well, that's huge. Let's say I buy a $500,000 house. You're telling me it could be $15,000 to $25,000 in closing costs? Yes. Could it be a little bit less? Perhaps. But what am I trying to tell you to do? I want you to prepare for the worst case scenario and proactively get your lender on the phone and ask him what exactly should I be considering for my closing costs? What's coming my way? What should I be prepared for? How much should I budget? And those questions are going to make that closing day that you've been fighting for, the end of the story, the happy finale. Closing is scheduled by the attorneys and the title company. It doesn't matter if your realtor tells you it's this Thursday or the lender. If the title company says no, it's no. So, and understand, why is the title so important? The title is a background check on all parties involved. Is a seller in a tax lien position? Does a buyer have overdue child support? These are all realities. And what you're going to want to understand is these things have to be cleared away before moving forward. There can be no judgments or liens against the individuals and or the property. These must be paid off at or before closing. Finally, you're at the closing table. You've reviewed all the docs with your lender. You understand how much closing. You're going to want to get a bank certified check for that, and you sign off. At the closing table, not before you get your keys. Once that wire has funded, it is your home. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you can pick up a bank certified check with your funds, your proceeds of the sale, or you can get a wire. But either way, we want to tell you something. We're grateful. We're grateful for the opportunity to work with you. And I personally am honored that you would trust us with such a large decision. Thank you so much. This may be the mountain to you, and this may be a huge galactic moment for you. And I want you to find comfort knowing that for my team and I, this is every single day. That we have had the privilege and honor of helping over 700, nearly 800 homeowners, home buyers, just like yourself, accomplish their real estate dreams. By turning houses into homes, we're able to impact and improve lives of people just like yourself. Looking forward to working with you. If at any time you feel as though our services aren't living up to our promise, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We thrive because of your feedback. And throughout the process, we want to earn each and every referral you'll send our way. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful adventure.